afternoon, everybody. Good evening, good morning, whatever the time of day it might be, whatever time zone you're in, whatever world zone you're in, whatever continent you're on, whatever country you're in. Welcome aboard. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden, and this is Fire Your MD Now. To talk to me live, give us a shout, 866-582-9933. That's 866-582-9933. And if you're listening to this broadcast on a podcast after the live airing of the show, give my friendly associates a call. They can answer all of your questions, show you the health opportunity, show you the business opportunity here, whatever your heart desires. That number, 855-347-3696. That's 855-347-3696. And, of course, 24/7 on the World Wide Web at fireyourmdnow.com. And if you forget that, just do a Google search for Dr. Glidden. I am always number one. Got it? Always number one. Now, they killed Neil Armstrong, and nobody's protesting. What we're doing instead is having tributes to the great life of Neil Armstrong, when we should be picketing the hospital outside of which his botched surgery was performed. Neil Armstrong, he wasn't threatened with a heart attack. There was nothing exorbitantly wrong with him. Nobody knows the particulars, but here is how I think it went down. Neil goes in for his annual checkup. The doctor does an EKG, put him on a stress test. Maybe they float some dye through his veins and give him, an X-ray to see the amount of blockage of his coronary arteries. And they say, well, Neil, you got a little bit of blockage here. I'll tell you what, you can either leave the hospital, go about your business, and you're probably going to get a heart attack in the next couple of years, or we can just fix it now. It's probably what happened, although we don't know specifically. But he went in for a routine exam, routine physical, and then they said, well, let's do bypass surgery. And a few hours after the bypass surgery, he dies. The surgery killed him. The stay in the hospital killed him. The medical doctors killed him. And instead of lacing them over the coals, instead of hanging them out to dry, instead of pressing criminal charges, canceling our medical insurance, boycotting the hospital, we give them a pass. We give them a pass. Ladies and gentlemen, every time someone in your community, someone in your family dies from a chronic health condition, it's because the MDs have failed them. Every time somebody dies from cancer, it's because the MDs have failed them. Every time somebody has to file bankruptcy because of medical bills, it's because the MDs have failed them. Do you get it? We're so deeply embedded in this matrix that we don't even see that it's a problem when the MDs consistently fail us, and they do all of the time. And this is a perfect example. Neil Armstrong, for goodness sake, first man to walk on the moon, was killed by his MDs. Before that, it was Andy Rooney. Before that, it was Dick Clark. Before that, it was Steve Jobs. They all died after they went to their MDs for routine procedures. Well, not Steve Jobs, but they couldn't fix Steve Jobs' cancer after $600 billion of research conducted over 50 years. The richest man in the world was let down by the MDs. You think you've got a chance? You think you have a fighting chance? You don't. The best thing that you can do is fire your MD. Just stop going to see them. They've got nothing for you unless you're bleeding to death. They got nothing for you. Maybe they've got something for you if you have, bronchial pneumonia that didn't respond to conventional holistic treatment. I've never seen a case of bronchial pneumonia that didn't respond to conventional holistic treatment. I've seen lots of cases of bronchial pneumonia that haven't responded to conventional MD treatment. But, every dog has his day. The MDs are good for surgery. They're good when it's necessary. They're good for trauma. However, a study conducted by Harvard University about 4 years ago showed that 51% of emergency room medical doctors are addicted to street drugs, prescription drugs, or alcohol, which means it should be mandatory before anybody goes into surgery to be drug tested. Well, we make our professional athletes do it. We make Olympians do it. We make astronauts do it. Why don't we make MDs do it? I'll tell you why we don't make MDs do it, because they monopolize the industry. They have legislated themselves into the driver's seat, and they have built around themselves walls and walls of legal immunity. You can go in to the MD because you're pregnant, and the MD's so gorked out on prescription meds that they cut both your arms and both your legs off, and nothing happens to the MD. Think I'm kidding? That happened about 9 months ago to a Filipino woman in a hospital in Miami. She went in to give birth to a child, and they cut her arms and legs off because the MD was gorked out of his mind on prescription drugs, and he's still working. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. We have reached the breaking point. And there are two types of people in the world: people who are closed-minded and cowardly, and people who are open-minded and courageous. If you are amongst the latter, if you are open-minded and courageous, then you need to fire your MD now. You need to cancel your comprehensive medical insurance, buy catastrophic medical insurance instead, and bring yourself up to speed with science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition, because that's the stuff that's going to save your life. That's the stuff that's going to prevent disease. That's the stuff that's going to support and promote your body's ability to fix itself in the face of a disease. For goodness sake, 200 microgram capsule of the mineral selenium, which, by the way, is cheaper than dirt because it's made from dirt, reduces the occurrence of breast cancer by 82%, prostate cancer 69%, colon cancer 64%, lung cancer 39%, even if you're a smoker. And that was published in a Journal of the American Medical Association in December 1998. The author's name, Larry Clark. Now, can somebody please tell me why we aren't doing more research on selenium? Can somebody please tell me why there hasn't been a national health mandate to make it mandatory for every man, woman, and child in this country to take 200 milligrams of selenium? You know how much money we'd save? In one generation, if everybody did that, according to these statistics, we would eliminate breast cancer by 82% in one generation. We would eliminate prostate cancer by 69% in one generation. We would eliminate colon cancer by 64% in one generation, and lung cancer by 39% in one generation. But oh no, let's instead do expensive, dangerous, harmful chemotherapy that doesn't work. Yeah, let's do that instead. Why do we do this? Why do they do this? Because they're dunderheads. They're knuckleheads. They're arrogant. They're filled with hubris. Their brains are filled with inertia. They're filled with delusions of grandeur. For goodness sake, if you were a carpenter, and every time you built a house, it fell down. Every single time you built a house, it fell down. You would question your design capabilities, wouldn't you? I mean, wouldn't that be a reasonable thing? Well, when these carpenters work on your body and the house falls down, they blame the lumber. They blame the nails. You know, they blame the weather. They blame God. Oh, it's your genes. Man, it must have been bad genes in that wood. We must have had the wrong type of wood, right? It's unbelievable to me how much we let these people get away with murder and incompetence, and I'm choosing my words carefully. For goodness sake, they killed Neil Armstrong. What's it going to take for you to fire your MD? That's the question before the board today. How much? What's it going to take? For goodness sake, they kill your children, they kill your parents, they kill your neighbors. They completely let you down when it comes to cancer, and you keep giving them money every month because you don't know there's a different way. Here's what I want you to do. Go to fireyourmdnow.com and buy a copy of my book, The MD Emperor Has No Clothes. Sign up for my weekly health recovery subscription service. There's information on there right now about 27 archived health webinars that can lift you up into health and to show you the simple solutions to chronic health conditions that the MDs are completely clueless about. You need to take your health into your own hands. You need to start the re-education process. And if you can pass the driver's license test, you can figure this stuff out. And if all that's too complicated, if you don't want to do that, you don't want to take the time, whatever, just call up one of my associates, 855-347-3696. That's 855-347-3696. Tell them your health concern, and they will tell you for free, no insurance copay charge, no consultation fee, Dr. Wallach's science-based, clinically verified health recovery solution for whatever it is that ails you. We don't treat disease, ladies and gentlemen. We help people to recover their health. There's a gigantic difference between treating disease and helping people to recover their health. That's what we do. Why? Because we can. Why? I don't know. That's just life. We took oaths, and we take them very seriously. First, do no harm. Remember that? First, do no harm. How many doctors fail on that one? Every oncologist in this country fails. Every oncologist is in violation of their Hippocratic Oath, if they're even required to take the Hippocratic Oath anymore. First, do no harm. So I'm going to deliver a chemotherapeutic drug, the intention of which is to poison the system just this side of death, and then withdraw that medicine, hoping against hope that the body can bounce back. Well, why don't you, instead of poisoning the body, support and promote the body's ability to bounce back in the first place? You ever think about that? Well, apparently not. Why? Because the pharmaceutical industry has your medical doctor by the short and curlies, and they have for the last 100 years. And they're cowards. These people do what their colleagues do without question. They go to medical school, they memorize all this stuff by rote, and then they're horrible in their application of it. They make misdiagnoses all the time. They prescribe one drug, conflicting medicines all the time. For goodness sake, their therapeutics, their methodology, the way that they practice medicine is the leading cause of death in the United States, and we don't protest? Why aren't we protesting? Because we're deeply embedded in the matrix, and as God is my witness, we need to snap out of it. Consider me the red pill. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I am the red pill that will snap you out of this myth that the MD is the undisputed king of medicine and their you-know-what doesn't stink. When they fail, you need to recognize it as a failure and hold them to account the same way that you would anybody else. This is the life that we live. This is the world that we live in, ladies and gentlemen. Take your health back. Go to fireyourmdnow.com, buy the books, buy the CDs, sign up for the health recovery tutorials, become a longevity member, and take back the night. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden, and this is Fire Your MD Now, where we pull back the curtain on MD-directed medical nonsense and bring you into the light of science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. So we're going to go to the phones here in just a second, but I want to talk to you about something. I came back from the annual Naturopathic Medical Conference a couple weeks ago. It was in Seattle this time, actually in Bellevue, Washington, and I learned some interesting things there, some tidbits of information that I'd like to just share with you here quickly. There's a supplement you might have heard of. The longevity company sells the best product of it I've ever seen in 24 years of clinical experience. It's called a glucosamine sulfate. It's joint food. Well, as it turns out, lung cancer, people with lung cancer have a reduction in their lung cancer of 25% with glucosamine sulfate, which is kind of a no-brainer because the lungs are made out of the same stuff that your joints are made out of. Whenever somebody suffers from a lung condition, whatever it is, glucosamine sulfate, and now finally, two and two together, gave patients glucosamine, and what do you know? And before you know it, the FDA is going to fix that. Melanoma, vitamin A reduced melanoma. Melanoma is reduced 25% by vitamin A. There's biological made virus called berberine. The common name of this botanical medicine is barberry or bearberry. Radiation-induced symptoms. People, you know, who are having chemotherapy and conventional knucklehead, dunderhead, dangerous quack, MD, radiation treatment for cancer, and then get side effects from it. Well, their radiation-induced side effect symptoms were reduced significantly by berberine at 300 milligrams a day. Here's a good one, hot flushes. Hot flushes of menopause reduced by magnesium, a magnesium supplement. How about that at 400 milligrams a day? And curcumin, which is in our Cell Shield RTQ, stopped the beginning stages of multiple myeloma, which is a skin cancer. It's called smoldering myeloma, when it's kind of, the skin cells have started to turn into cancer, but they're not quite there yet. Well, it reduced them from turning into full-fledged cancer by a statistically significant amount. How about that? But here's the greatest one of all. In 1998, at the University of South Carolina, they did a study that proved, simply from switching from well-done red meat to rare red meat, reduced the occurrence of breast cancer by 462%. 462%. So how come your medical doctor didn't call you up and say, holy smokes, I know there's cancer in your family. Of course, they think it's genetic. We know that it's not. I know there's cancer in your family. I just read this unbelievable article. By the way, this was 4 years ago, that just switching from well-done red meat to rare red meat is going to reduce the occurrence of your breast cancer by 462%. For goodness sake, if Pfizer Pharmaceutical developed a drug that reduced the occurrence of cancer by 10%, it would be front-page news. But when food or a nutritional supplement like selenium does it, to remarkable degrees, we don't hear squat about it. The media goes dark. Why? Because the media is owned by the pharmaceutical companies. They're all in bed together, and they are making their money to the tune of $750 billion a year on the backs of your suffering. On the backs of your suffering. If you think your medical doctor knows what's best for you, you're wrong. Your medical doctor only knows what they've been trained in. Your medical doctor might be the greatest person on the planet. Your medical doctor might work for Doctors Without Borders. He might donate millions of dollars a year to charities. Your medical doctor might be an upstanding member of your church, might sing in the church choir. He might be the Santa Claus in your town Santa Claus every Christmas. He just might be the nicest person alive. And the type of medicine that he's trained in, the medical profession that he supports and promotes and gains social credit from, is the leading cause of death in the United States, the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, and has completely dropped the ball in their understanding of the genesis and treatment of chronic health diseases. Stop going to these people. For goodness sake, they killed Steve Jobs. They killed Neil Armstrong. They killed Andy Rooney, and they killed Dick Clark. Guess what? You are in their sights next. Step away from the ledge, ladies and gentlemen. Fire your MD. Fire your MD now. You want me to show you what we can do with science-based, clinically verified nutrients? We're going to have a testimonial from Missouri is Up. Ruth, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Thanks for calling. How can I help?
Well, I just wanted to tell you what happened with my mom. I called you in the last part of June, I believe it was. My mom was 95 years old and in a lot of pain with muscle cramps. And the interesting thing was we'd been to the doctor in May for her checkup, and my mother has always been into nutrition, and she reads nutritional books, and she knows what she needs to take. She's not a novice like some folks. She's well-read. And she was taking magnesium, and she knew she needed calcium. I think she was taking that, too, in a pill form probably. But anyway, the doctor did her blood work. She's diabetic, and called back the next day, said, oh, my goodness, her magnesium levels are way too high. Get off the magnesium and come back in a week. So anyway, we went off the magnesium, and she rocked along, and she was just in horrible pain. And she would just have these, just gripping spasms. And so in June, I called you, and you recommended that kit with the Sweeties and the calcium.
Yeah, the healthy blood sugar pack, yeah.
Yeah. And then you said the Cal Toddy, and she has acid reflux and the enzymes and selenium. And so she took that faithfully for several weeks and wasn't seeing a whole lot of results. And I talked to my chiropractor, and he said the magnesium in her blood was not going to the cells, says the doctor's test was skewered, more or less. He said she needs to soak her feet in Epsom salts and apple cider vinegar and magnesium. That'll help. So we did that, and then she was still in pain, and my mother kept telling me when she said, when I was taking the magnesium, I didn't hurt like this. And so finally, after hearing that over and over, evidently my mother is not demented or anything,
Yeah.
And so after hearing that, I said, well, I'll just go get some magnesium, and we'll just see if it'll help. And I went to the health food store, and I told my mom that we would deal with the doctor when that time came in November. And I went and got her some Nature Sunshine Magnesium, and that night she slept all night for the first time in weeks. And I just feel like it was a cumulative effect of the calcium and the magnesium and the soaking and everything. She's just not been in pain.
Well, you got to love that, right? You got to love that. So the pain's completely gone?
Pretty much.
All right, great.
Their acid reflux every once in a while, but it's not near like it was.
Okay, great. Well, let me give you a heads up on how on a potential mechanism for all of that happening, right? So when properly applied medical nutrition, science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition produces poor results, it's because of only two things. Either the patient isn't taking enough of the stuff, like they're not taking enough magnesium or enough calcium, or more appropriately, usually they're not absorbing what they're taking, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes, especially with elderly people, let's say I have somebody who's, 100 pounds, right? And because their digestive system is in a quandary, because their digestive system has been hammered by, 8-9 decades of all of the wrong food, mm-hmm. their digestive tract isn't able to absorb hardly anything. So if I gave a 100-pound person a 200-pound dose, maybe they would get everything that they need, but maybe what we should do is give that 100-pound person a 300-pound dose. Because if I give them, 3 times as much as what they need, and they're only absorbing 30% of it because their digestive tract is just, in the crapper, then that's an appropriate therapy. And this is what happened with your mom. Now, so adding the extra magnesium tipped the scales in her favor, and let me tell you, there's a massive amount of magnesium, bioavailable magnesium, in the Cal Toddy.
Well, so, that's what I read. I read on it, and I was like, well.
Well, but look, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, right? I mean, there's no arguing with results. So the only possible possibility here, really, from a reality-based perspective, is that she just needed more. And this is consistent with the finding of acid reflux, because people who have reflux or heartburn have reflux or heartburn not because they have too much stomach acid, but because they don't have enough. So if somebody has heartburn, if you're in the listening audience and you have heartburn, it's because your stomach acid is too weak. It's not because your stomach acid is too strong. Your MD has gotten that one completely backwards also. So, if you've got heartburn, your stomach acid is weak. If your stomach acid is weak, your digestive system is weak. If your digestive system is weak, it's hard for you to absorb nutrients. And on top of that, if your mother or you or me or anybody has been eating wheat, barley, rye, and oats consistently, those foods will have hammered away at the integrity of the small intestine over decades, prohibiting the absorption of nutrients into the small intestine. So what I would recommend that your mom do now, even though she's in her 9th decade, is become gluten-free. I would counsel your mom and you and everybody in your family and everybody on the planet to immediately stop eating wheat, barley, rye, and oats, because that stuff interferes with the absorption of nutrients. And did you try that with your mom at all, putting her on the elimination diet?
Well, we have done some. She's really pared down from what she was. She eats very little of it, but no.
Okay, well, so what you might want to do is, by way of experiment, for 14 days, 2 weeks in a row, put her on 100% avoidance of all 10 of the bad foods just for 14 days. And see what happens. And, because, again, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, and she had such a remarkable experience with a little extra magnesium that you might really, she might not know what she's missing type of a deal. And really, with elderly folks and with children, with newborns or infants or children, toddlers, their systems are sensitive. I mean, they just are. And so a little bit of good stuff goes a long, long way with the elderly and or with children. So you might be surprised at how much better she feels, in the last 10 years of her life, simply from stopping the consumption of those 10 bad foods. And that would be a horrible thing to figure out, like a week before she passes over, right? I mean, holy smokes, I wish I'd have known this 5 years ago. Well, give it a try. Because whenever there's a problem with absorption, which there was in this case, we always look to the gastrointestinal tract, okay?
Well, what was interesting was when we had gone to the doctor in May, and I told the doctor about her spasms and her pain and her sleepless nights, and he looked at me and he says, "What do you want me to do?" And I was like, "Well, you're the doctor, I was hoping you had some answers."
Yeah,
but anyway, I thought that was just kind of interesting. He was like, "Well, tell me what you want me to do." And
yeah, I mean, it's really, I know, this is how bad it's gotten, that the medical doctors, they're not practicing medicine anymore, they're just dispensing drugs, and that's a problem, right? There's one more thing I want to point out that I don't want to gloss over here. Your mother needed more magnesium, even though her blood work showed contrary to that, right? The MD, having no training, no clinical experience, no appreciation, no respect for medical nutrition, felt okay to interpret her blood work from a medical nutrition point of view, which, should be against the law, quite frankly. I mean, you wouldn't expect me or your medical doctor to go into Fermi Lab in Illinois, where they do, testing with subatomic particles, and be able to read the neutron screen appropriately and give the physicists advice about what had just happened in the blast chamber, right? Because they have no conceptual knowledge about that whatsoever. And if a medical doctor tried to do that, the physicists would kick him out, and they'd probably call the cops and have him arrested. But medical doctors do exactly that when they interpret blood work or anything based on medical nutrition. The fact of the matter is that the RDAs, which were developed around, how much of different vitamins need to be taken, are completely pointless. They're completely useless. They're completely outdated, as is the blood work that most medical doctors do in order to try to assess somebody's nutrient function. And they're just clueless about it, 100% clueless. And not only are they clueless about it, but often, as it was with your mother's case, they got it 100% wrong. I mean, he was completely backwards in his understanding of what was going on. And had your mother not been your mother, and, she would have been suffering. And there are millions of people in this country, just like your mother, who are suffering. I mean, that's bad, man. You can't sleep, your muscles spasm, you're in pain all the time. That's bad. And what fixed it? A vitamin supplement, a mineral supplement, for goodness sake. Very, very easy to fix. But there are millions of people, just like your mother, who are still suffering because their MDs read their blood work and got it wrong too. And, this is a tragedy here of biblical proportions. So good for you for calling, good for you for stepping up to the plate, and, really good for you for carrying this ball through. And really, given your experience, your mom's experience, I'm telling you, put her on the elimination diet for 14 days and see how much better she gets. You got nothing to lose, really. Okay. So give that a try. And thank you so much for calling. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, next up is Joe calling from Idaho. I think he has multiple food sensitivities. Joe, welcome aboard. You're live with Dr. Glidden. Hello, Joe. Are you still there? No, Joe? All right. We'll go to Al, if Al's there, from South Dakota, calling with a headache follow-up. Al, are you there? All right. I guess nobody's there, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Well, okay. Is this Joe or Al?
It's Al.
All right, Al. What happened to those headaches?
They're still there. You gave me, if I pronounce it right, lachesis mutus.
Yeah, lachesis mutus, homeopathic lachesis mutus. Did that do anything at all?
No.
All right. So tell me what you're taking. How much do you weigh, Al?
I weigh about 260.
Okay, and please tell me what you're taking every day for nutritional supplements.
Okay, I'm taking 4 selenium 3 times a day.
Yep.
I'm taking 8 glucogel 3 times a day. I'm taking 1 ounce of Cal-Toddy 3 times a day. I'm taking the D-Stress 2 capsules 3 times a day. I'm taking the anti-aging daily premium pack twice a day. I'm taking 2 scoops of the Tangy Tangerine twice a day and 33 ounces of water. I'm taking 3 flaxseed soft gels twice a day, and 3 Fucozoid Z twice a day, and then I have to take testosterone 200 milligrams, 1 cc of that once a week, and then my hydrocodone if I have to take for pain.
All right. Now, you take hydrocodone for pain of what?
For headaches.
All right. So, how long have you had the headaches?
It's been about 25 months.
Okay. And what type of diagnostic work have you done? Specifically for the headaches. Have they done MRIs or CTs or anything like that?
They've done MRIs and CAT scans.
And everything's good in there, right?
Right.
Okay.
They just said I had a bulging disc in my neck, and that was supposed to...
that was what caused you the bulging disc in the neck?
They claimed that. Then they gave me... I had surgery on my neck, and that was supposed to... But that did nothing.
Okay. All right. We're up against the hard break. Stick around. Let's talk about it on the other side of the break, please. Ladies and gentlemen, Al from, I think, South Dakota, who's calling back with headaches. Now, just before I start talking to you again, Al, I just want to make one thing clear to the listening audience. Al is a perfect example of the fact that we don't screen our calls, right? We don't only take positive testimonials. Al's been working with me for a couple months. He still has headaches, right? We haven't figured out the solution. So it's not just all cookies and cream here. We don't screen the calls at all. Whatever happens is whatever happens. I should actually keep statistics here about our success rate, but it's over 80%. And we're going to fix Al to boot. So, Al, are you still with me?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. So, Al, have you ever been to see an osteopathic doctor or a chiropractor specifically for the headaches?
Yes, I've had a chiropractor that did where they stick the needles into you.
Yeah, acupuncture.
Acupuncture. He did that too. He was trained over in I think Korea.
Yeah. And has anyone ever done craniosacral work? Craniosacral.
What would that be?
Well, it's a manipulative technique that osteopathic doctors really kind of brought into the foreground of medicine. Some chiropractors, some naturopaths do it. It's the actual manipulation of the bones of the skull, right, which is an interesting thing to talk about. So in any event, I'll tell you how I'm thinking in just a minute, but I want one more piece of history. When these headaches started for you, historically, well, I mean, what was going on in your life? Were you in an automobile accident? Were you just laid off from your job? Did you just get divorced? Was there any big stressor in your life, or not so much? Not so much. I have Klinefelters, and I've had a history of kidney stones. And you've helped with that. I was doing very well at my work. I was leading in productivity. I was a pharmacy tech, and then the headaches came on, and I just couldn't. Being on the computer every day, I just couldn't compete with that. Yeah, I get it. Okay. So, well, look, here's the deal. This isn't a big mystery, and there are kind of in the diagnostic arena or even in the clinical treatment arena, we do things in steps, right? So, when somebody comes with a bunch of health conditions, and we start a course of medical nutrition, which we've done with you, we've cleaned up your diet and given you the really good nutritional supplement program. And then we get some things improving, so I helped you with the kidney stones, and I probably helped you with your energy and your mood and your sleep or some other things, right? Osteoarthritis, you helped very much with that. Okay, good. But so there's a bunch of things getting better, but now we're stuck. We're stuck in one particular place with these headaches. They just haven't budged, even though other stuff is getting better. So from a logical point of view, one must consider the fact that the root cause of the headaches, the pain that you're experiencing specifically, is not nutritional, but it's mechanical. All right?
Okay.
Because if it was nutritional, I would have expected it to resolve by now, because for goodness sake, the other stuff resolved by, I mean, you're getting headway on everything else, right? But we're jammed up here with the headaches. They haven't budged, right? So, I'm a would-be gardener, and I'm growing these pumpkins, and the pumpkin vines are like crazy, man. They grow in every direction. I've got one pumpkin vine that must be 15 feet long. I mean, it's crazy, right? But I was out there the other day, and I noticed that one of the vines, they must have like 8 or 9 or 10 different pumpkin vines, and one of the vines was the leaves were like, half as big as the others, and they had bugs on them, and it was just an unhealthy vine, right? And what the heck is going on here? Because all the other vines were great. So I check it out, and the creepers that the pumpkin vine grows on, these little like tentacles that go out and they'll wrap around whatever they can in order to secure the vine, to the ground or to the tree or whatever it is. Well, one of these little creepers from another of the vines, one of the vines right next to it, had strangled this little vine. And, it was like choking it. And everything downstream from that little teeny strangulation was affected because of it. It's a mechanical problem. So I'm going to bet you 25 cents that the root cause of this thing that you're dealing with is mechanical. It's got something to do with the structure of your neck and or your skull. So do a Google search for craniosacral therapy, craniosacral, craniosacral therapy. And if you have the choice, go to a DO, an osteopathic doctor, because they're the ones that are trained in this best. Check out craniosacral therapy, because I think the root cause of this for you, Al, is mechanical. And that particular type of physical medicine, craniosacral therapy, is what would be my first choice in order to deal with this type of a situation. So we're going to check it out. Give me a call back with another report, and hopefully we'll hit the nail on the head. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you Tuesday. Monday's a holiday. Keep the faith.